You notice there's a bill that the Republicans are trying to pass in the Senate for $250 billion, $251 billion to help small businesses. Many of you are going to be mad at me. This stuff's not going to work. Opening the economy will work. Has anybody heard Governor Cuomo support that bill? He's never supported that bill. He's never said a word about it. Why not? Aren't there small businesses in New York? New York City? Of course there are. Well, wouldn't people in New York and New York City be able to access some of these funds? Of course they would. So why isn't Cuomo getting behind it? Because he's a hack. Because Schumer's not behind it? Because Pelosi's not behind it? Because they want more money for other stuff. Plus, Cuomo wants you to bail him out. I'm going to tell you about Cuomo. I just, during the break, looked this up. All I did is Bing New York City State Budget 2019. And you know what popped up? This article from November 22nd, 2019 in the New York Post. You want to hear this? Here's the headline by Bernadette Hogan and Carl Campanelli. New York State faces $1 billion budget hole next year, officials said. November 22 was before this virus, in any noticeable way, hit New York. So before any of this, Governor Cuomo faces, I'm quoting, a growing budget mess, as officials projected a shocking $6.1 billion hole in the state's finances next year. That's this year. The figure was provided by the State Division of Budget in its mid-year budget report, which was released weeks after its legally mandated due date. That tallies up to roughly 6% of the state's $102 billion budget for its agencies and operations. So it has a $102 billion budget, and it's off by 6% in 1 year. It goes on. More than half the gap, $4 billion, is linked to a dramatic rise in the state's Medicaid costs. These states that have given the most liberal financing towards Medicaid, or who include illegal aliens in Medicaid, they're bleeding. And they want you and me to fix this. This is what this is really about. This is what this is really about. In an effort to patch the hole, Cuomo's considering slashing payments to hospitals and nursing homes in the current budget and perhaps next year. Quote, savings may include across-the-board reductions in rates paid to providers and health plans, reductions in discretionary payments, and other actions that can be executed administratively in the current fiscal year, the report reads. It's Cuomo's biggest budget shortfall since he came into office in 2011, experts said. This bastard's been a governor for over 9 years. This is the toughest budget that Cuomo has faced, partly because he had bigger gaps when he took office. He took office 9 years earlier. But he also made more political capital. He kind of owns this crisis because it's not driven by the economy. Listen to this. It's driven by the shortcomings of his own management of the Medicaid program in particular. One healthcare... So here you have a governor who's short ventilators, who's cutting hospital beds, who's off by 6% on his budget as a result of his budget priorities. Now he wants everybody else to take care of it. He's worried about his own backside, America. He's not worried about New York. These were his decisions. He placed New York in a vulnerable position. One health expert said the growing Medicaid costs are the result of New York's costly and unwieldy health care system. What? One healthcare expert said the growing Medicaid costs are the result of New York's costly and unwieldy health care system. Quote, they failed to present a real plan, criticized Dave Friedfeld of the Citizens Budget Commission, a fiscal watchdog group. They've known about this for a long time, but the plan they did present is really one-part gimmick. Now, his analysis shows the state was already in trouble after pushing off a $1.7 billion Medicaid bill in March 2019 into 2020, which grew into about $4 billion. So this guy has been a fraud from day one. An unwieldy health care system in the state, They allow people into their healthcare systems that a lot of states don't. They're up there near the top in terms of benefits under Medicaid, and they can't afford that in New York. But that's his agenda, that's his politics, that's his base. And so it's a $1.7 billion Medicaid shortfall in 2019, and he's pushing it into this year, back in November. And now it's grown to $4 billion. And then he's got another $2.1 billion in the hole. A spokesman for the Division of Budget refused to give details of head of Governor Cuomo's January budget address on how the state plans to cut Medicaid expenditures incurred and rolled over from last year. So he would have the federal government bail him out. And he's using this virus. He's using the horror of what's taken place to the people in New York City, in particular in the metropolitan area. He wants his costs, his budget, that was deep in the hole. What do they call it here in the article? Shocking. A shocking $6.1 billion hole, 6% in the state's finances. This year, because of part of an unwieldy hospital and healthcare system. This is why Cuomo said, let's go to cut 8. Now listen carefully. This is what I do. I put these things together. Listen carefully to what he says. Cut 8, go.
The state governments, I still eat. Dr. Zucker still eats.
This is not cut 8, Mr. Producer. Go to cut 8.
Stabilize the finances of the state. The federal government has passed 3 bills to address this crisis. Of those 3 bills, the state governments have gotten precisely 0, zilch, nada in unrestricted aid.
In unrestricted aid. He wants unrestricted aid, not virus-specific aid, not even to be reimbursed for the costs directly associated with this virus, although let's admit all this money is fungible. He wants unrestricted aid. Now, why does he want unrestricted aid? Because of what I just read to you. Back in November, they predicted that this year, New York would be $6.1 billion, or 6% of its budget, short, in the hole, which the New York Post said was shocking. That's why he's attacking President Trump. That's why he's demanding federal aid. That in part is why the Democrats are holding up this other spending binge, if you will, this $250 billion, because they want more for, quote-unquote, the states and, quote-unquote, the hospitals in the states. Meaning, among others, New York's unwieldy hospital system, quote-unquote, and their deep debt that they had long before the coronavirus. This man is a huckster. He's a fraud. And not a single so-called journalist in that room, when he's sitting there pontificating, barely coherent, has even asked him about this. And they know about it. I'm not a reporter in New York. They're reporters in New York. A massive budget deficit long before the coronavirus. And that's why he's fighting. He wants you and me, the other states. He wants the federal government, he wants the President of the United States to save his poor ass. That's what he wants. It's not about the people of New York. This guy's been in charge for almost a decade. He doesn't know how to run a state. He doesn't know how to run a budget. He's a spendaholic. When it came to ventilators, he picked solar panels. He's been slashing hospital beds. Here, they're threatening to slash the hospital system. Now we have the virus. He doesn't have enough ventilators, he said. Turns out he did. But he's hat in hand. Why is he hat in hand? Because he was running a massive debt. That's why. Now, he doesn't care if he passes that on to you and me and the President of the United States and the Republican Senate and the Congress. He doesn't care. Same with the schmo in California. Same with the schmo in Illinois and the schmo in New Jersey. It's caught up with them. And it's having a horrendous effect on their constituents, on the people of New York and New York City, in addition to his damnable priorities that did not put the people of New York first, that did not put the health of the people of New York first. He's destroyed their budget. And I don't know how many more taxes you can raise in New York, what else you can tax, how high you can tax. People are leaving in droves. People are depopulating the state. They're going to Republican states. Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom want to do to the United States budget what they've done to their own budgets. And the Republicans have taken them 90% of the way there. But it's not enough. And Cuomo will keep talking about, we states, we can't be expected to carry this crisis on our shoulders without federal money. He didn't have any money before this. If this man were running a bank, he'd be under arrest. If this man were running a mortgage company, he'd be under arrest. But here he is, with over 80% popularity in New York. You want to know why? Because they let him go on and on in these press conferences. You know, he doesn't have the press challenging him and attacking him the way the President of the United States does. No, no, no. They kiss his butt. And they don't do research, either because they're ideologically driven or they're too stupid. It took me literally 20 seconds to find this article during the break. Andrew Cuomo wants you and me to bail out his state's debt that he created long before this virus. A shocking, quote-unquote, shocking $6.1 billion hole in the state's finances, unquote. That's from a November article. And among other things, he wanted to slash the hospitals because the hospital system is, quote, unwieldy in New York, unquote. So progressivism, massive deficit spending, has contributed to the mayhem and the death in the hottest of the hot spots in the country, New York. Bad decisions, solar panels over ventilators, slashing hospital beds. Bad decisions when it came to public transportation. Bad decisions contributed mightily. Not exclusively, obviously, but contributed mightily to the worsening of the situation in New York. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.